What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Iron Mike Tyson and Anthony Joshua. Mike Tyson said some very interesting things about Anthony Joshua. He said that Anthony Joshua is, quote, a recipe for disaster if he faces Tyson Fury as he telegraphs his punches. Mike Tyson believes Anthony Joshua's flaws make him a recipe for disaster if he faces Tyson Fury, of course. He said that having claimed his WBO belt with a stunning victory over Deontay Wilder, he feels that Tyson Fury will go all the way because he took out Deontay Wilder. And speaking to Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearn on his BBC No Passion, No Point podcast, the American outlined why he thinks Fury is the favorite. He said it's very interesting because Joshua is a masterful puncher. Masterful puncher. But you can see his punches coming. He telegraphs his punches. And that's just a recipe for disaster if you're fighting Tyson Fury and you're telegraphing your punches to a guy who's 6'7". Come on. Wow. Now, let me stop there. Mike Tyson looks at things the way he looks at things. I don't think there's any bias or anything like that. Now, Anthony Joshua did have that somewhat present-day Daniel Dubois-like style. A lot of people used to compare them two together. I think he had that style. I think his punches were rather telegraphed, but he threw a lot of shots. He was good at combinations, body and head. Okay, that's what makes someone dangerous right there that can also punch. Now, did he telegraph his punches? Sure he did. But yeah, Tyson Fury's 6'9" or whatnot, but Joshua's 6'6", so he's not that much taller than Joshua. However, he does have the advantage because he is the taller guy with a longer reach. Boxing IQ wise, speaking of Fury is a great technician in there. He knows how to box. He grew up boxing. He's a fighting man, right? But here's the thing. I've seen Deontay Wilder in the first fight take a jab to Tyson Fury's face. Tyson Fury is a guy that likes to box on the go. Okay, he likes to throw that jab out there. Sometimes he'll sit down on his punches. He's been hanging around Javon Sugar Hill with the Krunks gym, and he's grew some sorts of power in these punches. Okay, so I think it would be a very interesting thing to see him go in there to fight Joshua. But here's the thing: Joshua is a guy himself that has learned that you don't have to be bulky. You don't have to telegraph your punches. It's better to be more fluent and mobile, okay? And you don't need all that damn muscle mass. He's shredded down. He looks shred and trim now, okay? So what he showed us against Andy Ruiz, that he's not the guy that he used to be. So he's ever-changing. So yeah, Mike Tyson, what I wonder in counterpunching Mike Tyson, what fight was he regarding to, or was he looking at that gave him that? Probably every fight before the Andy Ruiz loss, right? Because that's exactly what he did. But knowing what he does and doing what he does to fighters, they still got hit. Okay? So if Tyson Fury wants to stand and trade with someone like Anthony Joshua, he will still get hit too. And then we'll know what will be what. On top of that, beating Deontay Wilder is not, you can't claim supreme dominance over the heavyweight division. The whole division, you get just by beating one guy. You can't do that in 5 years. I mean, that's not fair to everyone else that's there. You see what I'm saying? And thinking, well, I think he'll go all the way. I mean, look, Mike Tyson, he looks the best in fighters. And Tyson Fury is a very determined and strong fighter, strong-minded fighter, strong-willed fighter. But he hasn't fought a guy like Anthony Joshua. The last time he took a punch from Anthony Joshua, he had this to say about Anthony Joshua. The guy was able to hit me. Tyson Fury is a guy that can box. He's always knew how to box. But can he get hit? Yes, he can. That Mayweather heavyweight defense is somewhat of overrated. Okay? He was caught with the right hand eventually with Wilder in the first fight twice and the second fight. Okay, it just wasn't impactful in the second fight because he was hurting Deontay Wilder. Okay, he was fighting fire with fire, not fire with finesse, or with boxing finesse, boxing skills. He went right at Wilder, but I don't think he would want to do that with Joshua. That would not be a good thing for him. So the irony of what Mike Tyson said was he was referring to an older Anthony Joshua, and the Anthony Joshua of old that does telegraph punches, that does come up with those punches like that. That's who he was thinking about. That I don't think that Anthony Joshua exists anymore, right? But I do think he can still punch. He can still bang. Tyson Fury knows he can still bang. Okay, he's punched Tyson Fury before. Tyson Fury knows what he's up against. And make no mistake about it, Tyson Fury might be talking about how dangerous Deontay Wilder is over Joshua now. But if that third fight is over and said and done, or there's no more fight with Deontay Wilder, and it's time for him to fight Anthony Joshua, he'll be saying the same shit about Anthony Joshua. Facts. Okay? And I think that the other ironic part about this whole thing is when Anthony Joshua was throwing these uppercuts and hooks at, close range. Where do you think he got that from? Who you think his role model was? His role model was Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? He puts his gloves up and stuff like those mannerisms and things like that. He gets he gets all bowed up. He wanted to be a taller, bigger Mike Tyson. That's what I think. The neck rolls and all that. Think about that. Who was doing that shit? Mike Tyson back in the day. I think Anthony Joshua, I think he wanted to be more of Mike Tyson, just like Adrian Broner wanted to be more of Floyd Mayweather. Money, Floyd Mayweather. That's what I believe. And then it's another thing with Tyson Fury. It's easy. And Mike Tyson, it's easier to root for a guy that you personally know. He doesn't know Deontay Wilder personally. He's never met the guy. He said that. He doesn't know Anthony Joshua. He never met the guy. He's also said that. And it's easier to root for a guy that you've known, that you've met personally. He was on Hot Boxing with Mike. They've met a couple other times. He's named after him, for Christ's sake. Am I saying that Mike Tyson's biased? To a degree. Why? Not because he's really necessarily named after him. That may have a little bit to do with it. But looking at the whole picture, I think he jailed with Tyson Fury because he's actually met Tyson Fury. So the guy that you meet personally, that's the guy that you're going to root for. If you're a normal guy and you run into a superstar or an actor or something like that, and you think he's a cool dude, you jail with him, you make a good conversation with him or whatnot, and then you'll go back and say, man, that was a really cool dude or whatever. Like Sean Connery was a real cool dude. You're gonna always want to watch his fights. His movies, right? You're gonna always want to see what he's in because you have that connection with that particular guy. That's the same connection that Tyson Fury has with Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? Beyond all the legacy stuff and his namesake and all that stuff. You know what I mean? They have that bond already. So it's hard to not be biased when you're talking about a guy that you actually know and met and got and sat down to get to really know, and then shared some very personal things together. Okay, if Mike Tyson, if anything, I think he gives Anthony Joshua more flack than anybody else. Think about, I don't know, maybe he expects more out of him. Maybe, he never really disses him or hates on him. That's not Mike Tyson's thing. Mike Tyson is a guy that just speaks whatever on his mind, and that's that. He ain't stopped doing it he ain't never stopped doing it, so why stop now? But you guys go down memory lane with Anthony Joshua took that L. When Anthony Joshua lost, he questioned. He was like, man, I think he questions himself. Hey, what you gonna do? You got any heart? Use the N-word, you got any heart? What you want to do? What do you mean? What you going to do? You going to fight? What you going to do? You going to sit down like a little bitch? Those type of things he was saying about Anthony Joshua, but it was mostly, he was paraphrasing how Anthony Joshua would think about himself. But you know what I mean? But he was actually asking those questions like, hey, who are you? Who are you right now? Did he say that same thing about Wilder? No, he didn't. He did say stop crying because, Wilder was crying and shit. He was doing some whiny shit. You know what I'm saying? So Yeah, and then even then, he didn't go at Wilder like he probably could have. You see what I'm saying? But Anthony Joshua, I think, yeah, he went at Anthony Joshua a little bit more firmer than anybody else. Okay, so the question is, with Tyson Fury ever loses, will he have that same type of aggression? But it depends also how Tyson Fury takes his loss too. So that has a lot to do with it. You know what I mean? How you react to something. That's 90% of all of it. 10% is actually what happened. But anyway, excuse me. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Mike Tyson's comments about Anthony Joshua. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunched. Peace.